I think 2 years ago, we were all super high on what Charles Harris was doing. And then he got hurt and he played hurt a lot if he played much last year. And it was just a struggle. And now outside linebackers coach David Correo, I've, to be honest with you, not heard of him. I didn't know he was a coach. I don't know how I missed that one. He believes that Charles Harris, who is now healthy, will make the Lions defense so much better. And he got really specific with it. You're going to want to hear why. I promise you that. But before we do that, in this video, we are partnering with Mint Mobile. We've started partnering with them. Super excited. I know having a high cell phone bill is a problem for a lot of people who watch this channel. I've been there. Trust me. I had the opportunity to save a ton of money with Mint Mobile. It offers premium wireless plans for as low as $15 a month. It is on the nation's largest 5G network, and it only takes about 15 minutes to set up. So if you want to get there, click that QR code below. I'm pointing at it, I think. Click the QR code below. I'll have the link in the description as well. But let's move on to more Detroit. And it started with something that's simple. He was doing an interview, and it started with something as simple as Charles is a tremendous veteran leadership presence. Great. We want him to be a tremendous veteran leadership presence. Like that's exactly what we want to have. All right. He does things the right way, his attention to detail, the way he comes to practice, the way he brings what he does to the game. All right. But he went even deeper than that. He said a healthy Charles Harris is going to make us a much better defense. Okay. So how? Why? All right. So there's first is the on-field play. And in a moment, I'm going to talk to you about the further what he continued to say in the quote, where he was talking about what Charles Harris makes a difference on in practice. But we can remember what he did in the game. All right. He had 7.5 sacks in 2021. He was one of the, I don't know if you remember this. He was like one of the most double team players in the league. He produced 52 pressures, which was 22nd in the NFL. Like he was good. And now that we have Hutch, he should have a lot less attention brought to him. But there's so much more than that in what he does just in the game. Because I know we have a lot of young guys in that same position, but how are these young guys learning? All right. So here's what the coach said, Correo. He said, what we constantly find ourselves doing, and I got all this off Pride of Detroit. They're doing a great job over there, is pointing to what he is doing and telling the guys, look, if you want to know what it looks like, an old defense, or that's what Correo said. If you want to know what it looks like, look at Charles Harris. So in practices, I can just picture this. They're doing drills. Coaches are trying to coach the right technique. Coaches are saying your arm goes here. This is what the swim looks like. This is where your footwork should be. This is how you should line up. And then what they're able to do is point to Charles Harris and be like, that's what it looks like. That's the guy who's doing it the right way. Do it like him. He went on to say an old defensive coordinator I used to work for, we used to talk about, you have to know what it looks like. If you want to do things the right way, you got to know what they look like. And Charles is the guy that we find ourselves repeatedly over and over pointing to him and saying, that's an example of what we want it to look like. I used to coach. I've coached multiple sports from basketball to tennis. I know. All right. To multiple things. One of the biggest barriers to get over was trying to stop just teaching the kids over and over what something would be and trying to explain to them what it would look like. And I would say, go watch the game. Like young people don't watch the games like they used to. So if it's like, hey, if you're coaching basketball, go watch basketball. Right? If you're sitting here saying you want to be a good tennis player, go watch Roger Federer. Go watch Rafael Nadal. Go watch how these guys do it. What does their footwork look like? What does their timing look like? Are they lazy? All this kind of stuff. It's the same thing when it comes to the NFL, except it's even more fine tuned. So if you have players that can watch it live, that's even better than pulling tape. I just did another video about Jameson Williams where he asked for tape of Tyreek Hill and other receivers because he wanted to get better. He wanted to study what they were doing. But if you can do it live, right there, if Charles Harris is right there and you're able to just literally be behind him and look and watch what he's doing, and then you're able to immediately do it, it makes such a big difference. This is why we say veteran leadership is so important. It's not just because they're good in the locker room. Like, we're talking about this all the time with the Pistons right now. They have such a young team. What is the veterans going to look like? Everybody, are we going to keep Burks? Are we going to keep Bogey? Like, we're talking about all these things. If we don't keep them, we need to bring in other vets. It's for multiple reasons. Yes, it's good for the locker room, but it's good at practice. It's good to see the work ethic. It's good to see the way they play the game. When a coach sits there and has someone that he needs to show an example of how it's done, to be able to point to a guy on the field, on the court, wherever it might be, and be like, watch him, go do it. And that's exactly what Charles Harris has become on the defensive line for the Detroit Lions. That's huge. You want James Houston working with him. You want Hutchinson working with him and Pascal, because he knows what he has to do. He's been around the block. I think he's been in the league for 6 years. And I'm not saying every year was good, but you pick up on some things in 6 years. You pick up on some things. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like going forward and how he will help this young defensive line grow. Our D line improved vastly last year. Vastly throughout the course of the year, but it was a bunch of young guys figuring it out. Bugs was about the only vet on that line, and Kaminsky, and you saw how well they played. But at the beginning of the year, you have two guys that were our best defensive linemen from the year before, Charles Harris and Romeo Okwara. And for one reason or another, Okwara was the ACL. Harris was just different injuries. I don't know. I think it was like some soft tissue issues, like a groin, a hamstring, stuff like that. They weren't able to play a lot in the beginning. So these young guys didn't get to watch them every single day. And now when you have the vets like Kaminsky and Bugs and Harris and Okwara, you have four different type of defensive linemen. So you have a guy, a veteran presence that you can point to and be like, do it that way across the board. But Harris, it sounds like, has a leg up on the competition. So let us know, is this a big deal, him being healthy? I think it is. I also think he's a little bit of a forgotten man. It goes beyond just the play on the field. It is huge in bringing up our young players. Leave a comment below, hit the subscribe button, become a member. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.